Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus. I am super excited. I should have made this video a long time ago. Honestly, it should have come out like in maybe March at the latest, but here we are in the end of May, and honestly, I had a heart attack because I wanted to make this video. I have a list of things that I just wanted to talk about from looking over the trailer and whatever, and I've been sitting on this and I've been thinking, oh, I'm gonna make a video before E3, before like they really start showing stuff off about it. And then they dropped the release dates as well as like the box art, and I got like, oh crap, they're gonna talk about it and they're gonna give us information that will basically like make all of these questions and things on my list obsolete. And I got a little nervous, honestly. Luckily they didn't, so I figure I might as well make this now, even though we're like probably like a week away from getting an actual trailer, maybe 2 weeks at the most. And I was going to type it up in Microsoft Word so I'd have it in front of me, but I might as well just read off of this list. Number one, now honestly I made this list like a couple of months ago, so I don't know, whatever. Number one, I don't think that this game is going to be set thousands of years. That was the most popular thing that people like, oh my god, ancient, like, because they talk about like it being like, oh, from a long time ago, and then people were like, ancient Pokemon, blah 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 blah, because like Arceus is an ancient, he's the god Pokemon, right? So it's like, obviously it's going to be a long time ago anyways, but like ultimately if you look at the characters, you look at like the aesthetic, they are going for like at most a few 100 years in the past, which is still a very long time, but it's not thousands of years, so get that out of your head. And if it was thousands of years, I don't know what the heck is going on with the Pokemon timeline as far as like Pokeballs and lamps and modern like architecture. Next up, I love the Sumie art. I hope it is like the aesthetic of like Sumie painting, like that ink stroke look sticks with the entire freaking game, like in the game and outside of the game. Obviously they're using it to promote it, but like I love it. I love the art style of like just like color, like lack of color, it's just all paint strokes. I love it. I'm just excited to honestly see Game Freak do something completely different from what they're normally doing. Obviously, there will be hints and nods of stuff that, like, maybe it is more in line with what we're thinking, but given that it is single player, seemingly, and it's completely different, like, out of like, left field kind of thing, I am really excited to see them do something different. See them do something that is out of the ordinary, that is not just, oh, you're gonna go and do gyms or island trials or whatever, which are basically gyms. It's interesting to see them return to a region and do something that's not just, oh, retelling the story, because they can't just retell the story. It's a totally different story at this point. I got to imagine. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, action RPG. It's an action RPG. You can duck, you can dodge, you can dip, dodge, and duck. Don't get hit by a freaking wrench. This is a first. This is like, honestly, we have never been able to jump. Like, obviously you can jump off of ledges or whatever in Pokemon games, but you've never ever been able to jump. And I wonder if I honestly wonder how much of this is going to tie into the battle system, or it could just be like, oh, you can dodge and whatever. I mean, obviously we don't know anything about the game as a whole, but I wonder if there's like some kind of like mechanic in which, like, and I'll get to this more so later, or in a minute, I don't know, but I'll get to this a little bit down the line, or it's like maybe you have to dodge Pokemon attacks, or maybe there's some kind of, like, it's an action RPG, so there's got to be some kind of action element other than just, oh, I'm gonna jump into the grass. Like, I could see them doing that, but I hope it's something more exciting. And also, do you think we'll be able to swim and like go into water just like without Pokemon? Or do you think it's exclusively like, oh, you hit the Y button and it makes you do a little dodge? Or can you jump in place, jump up and down, and when you're like moving, that's when it makes you go dodge and do a roll? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Oh, next on the list is boss battles. So Spoilers a little bit, because we really don't know much about it, and I'm sure that they're just going to talk about it anyways at some point. It seems, we don't know 100% of the details or anything, but based on the leaks that we got basically a day before they announced it, there's going to be some sort of boss battles. Now, granted, that's like not really that surprising. Totem Pokemon in Gen 7 were boss battles. Gym leaders and Elite Four are basically boss battles, so it's not out of question. But Pokemon, specifically, this is like, I think they'll be more in line with Totem Pokemon, but it's a boss battle, and that kind of brings me to the action RPG element, where it's like, maybe the boss Pokemon, maybe you don't need it all the time, but maybe the boss Pokemon, whether you have Pokemon or not, maybe they attack you and you have to dodge out of the way, or maybe there's mini games in which, like, in order to battle a boss Pokemon, you end up having to, like, go to, like, kind of wear it down, similar to, like, the Zapdos and Articuno and Moltres stuff in Crown Tundra. Next up is throwing Pokeballs without having to battle at all. Now, granted, I doubt you're going to be able to do this with every Pokemon. You're not going to roll up to Arceus and just, like, chuck a ball and be whatever. I think bigger Pokemon, stronger Pokemon that you find will require battle, like a traditional battle. We've already seen that you have a traditional battle in the game. But I think it's like, oh, if you're just catching a Shinx, like we saw, that's just, you know, hey, you're catching a Shinx. It's no different from getting into a battle, throwing a quick ball, and ending it. It's much quicker and much more interesting, honestly. Speaking of battles, there's some interesting little tidbits, even from the first trailer that we saw, and that involves relative seamless battle transitions. So, like, as opposed to it being like, fade to black, and then like a transparent Pokeball shows up and kind of like zooms you into the battle scene. I think it's just gonna be, you see a Pokemon, you get into a battle, whatever the circumstances to get into a battle is, maybe you touch it, maybe you don't, I don't know. But whatever the circumstances to activate the battle sequence, I think it just transitions and it just, like, you're suddenly in the battle. And that's part of the reason why I think dodging is going to play a role in the battling, because one, why would you need dodge? Why would you need a dodge to begin with? And two, maybe you need to activate the battle, not in a traditional sense, but in like, oh, you're running up to a Pokemon and maybe you hit a button to throw your Pokeball out, like your Pokemon out, and it just kind of gets you into it. Also, this is just a small thing that I noticed, but there's aspect ratio change when you go into the battles. Every time they showed off any either pictures or footage of the battle sequence, it had like a widescreen effect going on. Now, granted, I don't know if it's like a simulated widescreen or whether it's just like a real widescreen. It could just be they put two black bars there and it's whatever. But whenever you get into a battle, it kind of puts it into a widescreen ratio, which is really kind of cool because it makes it feel more cinematic, more action-packed, more exciting, rather than it just being like, oh, you're just kind of in it, you know? I find these starter picks for this game really interesting. They all make sense in some capacity. Oshawott is a samurai, so obviously it's like, Sinnoh is like a very traditional Japanese, it's Hokkaido, so it's Japanese in that sense. So Oshawott makes sense. Rowlet makes sense because I guess there are archers in Japan. Ooh, I mean, it is a martial art of some sort. It is like a form of battle in traditional Japanese battling armies, whatever. And honestly, that's like, archery is supposed to be apparently like, that was the main form of samurai battle back in the day. Like, all the times you see like in movies where they're like clashing swords and doing whatever, that's really not really like how it goes. That it's more just like, oh, they take their bow and arrow out, and if they needed to use their sword, they would. So that makes sense too. Cyndaquil, my boy, is kind of a little bit out there, but I guess there's like some like, I think it's its Japanese names like Baku something, or at least Typhlosion's name is like Bak. It sounds like a Bakufu, or there's something about it being like an explosion or fireworks kind of, or pyrotechnics rather, not fireworks, but it's like that kind of theming. So I guess it's like, you know, Japanese people use guns, and I don't know, man. Cyndaquil's my boy. I'm glad they're using him, all right? I am very interested in the Pokeballs. The Pokeballs are obviously not going to be metal. They're made of wood. Then they have little steam puffs coming out to show you that they're like older. They're prototypes, I guess. I guess the question is, Pokeballs, at least tradition, like normal modern day Pokeballs, are a relatively new thing. You get into a whole timeline thing where it's like you got Samioka using the weird gear Pokeball. That's in the anime. Silphco created the Pokeballs in the games. Granted, all of them, but like it's just like timelines, man. When does it make sense that a Pokeball would not exist at all, and when does it make sense for a Pokeball to start appearing? Magearna exists. Pokeballs are based off of Magearna, I guess, so that's something. One of the biggest things about this game is that it is based, the mascot is Arceus, and that's something that we've never seen before, is a mythical Pokemon. Wait, let me stop. A mythical Pokemon being a mascot, specifically a mascot. Obviously, we've had, like, with Deoxys, that was the first time that a mythical Pokemon was natively available in a game. But now Arceus is the mascot, and obviously we're going to have Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina in the games. I find it preposterous that people are, like, surprised that, oh, maybe there's going to be, like, I saw somebody, I forget what the, like, I won't call anybody out, but, there was a thing where it was like, oh, theory, the game will feature Giratina. It's like, nope, duh. You can't have an Arceus game set in Sinnoh without it focusing in some capacity on the three, like, main mascots of Gen 4 anyways. So that's dumb. Now, whether they get new forms or whatever is a whole other thing. I would not be surprised if we get, like, a origin form Dialga and Palkia. I don't know what they would be. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got those, considering that Giratina already has an origin form. But yeah, that's really interesting. I like the idea that they're using one single mythical. They don't have to split it between two legendaries. That's why it's just one game, and I like that a lot. And honestly, as much as I bash on Gen 4, I generally like the lore that comes with it. I think that they did awesome with the lore and the Pokemon in general and the characters, but it was really just the games, the mechanical features of the games that really took me out of the generation. So I'm excited to see a well-made game that focuses on Sinnoh and its lore, with Arceus being the spear point. Spear pillar. Alright, we got a whole other page. I don't know if we... I'm just gonna keep reading these. I don't know. Trying to get through this list as quickly as possible so it's not like a ridiculously long video. Old-timey versions of music. I actually like Gen 4's soundtrack. I think a lot of people are excited to hear the updated versions of the music in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, but I think what would be more interesting is hearing the music in kind of a more old-timey, a lot more like shamisen and shakuhachi, and like get some real nice twists on Pokemon music from Sinnoh that is like, let's hear some old-timey traditional versions of those songs, like Eterna City or Orberg or any of the routes, really, because those routes have some really good music, both day and night. Here's another one. Team Galactic. Will they appear in any capacity, even as oh, they're a tiny group or whatever, and they're hoping to do some stuff, but they don't have the technology to do it right now? And are they going to be there in any significant capacity? A lot of people think that, like, the professor is gonna be like freaking Cyrus from the main games, and he went to a different universe, and he ended up being a professor or whatever. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think it'll be a different character. But the main characters have, like, a symbol on their arm, which kind of looks like the Team Galactic symbol, but I think they're extrapolating a little more than they probably should be right from the get-go. Moving on, I honestly hope that there's more of a story to this. If they're going to focus on lore and do something experimental and ambitious with this game, I want there to be story. Obviously, I want there to be more exploration too, especially if it's an open world game. That's, that's further down on my list. But it's an open world game, so I want there to be exploration, but I do want there to be a good core story, and I'm afraid that they're going to be just like, open world game, go collect all the Pokemon, and that's literally it. I hope that there's something more interesting to make me want to get to the finish line, you know what I mean? A lot of people just, like, they hate the storylines, or, like, here's the thing. They don't hate the storylines per se, but they hate the, like, just dialogue. It's dumb. How else are you, like, you're okay with reading long lines of text from, like, a library, but you're not okay with just, like, oh, here's a cutscene with characters talking? I don't get it. I want the story to be a bit more than just, oh, I'm going to complete the dex. Now, a huge point of contention, even today, is that the gameplay looked a little rough in the beginning, and now, here is the thing. I am not willing to jump on it right now. I'm not willing. People can jump on the original trailer and be like, oh, it looks rough. That Chingling is juddering up and down. Chimchar looked weird, blah, 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 blah. That's clearly early footage. So whatever they show at E3, I think will be way more indicative of what we should expect. And I wouldn't get your hopes up, but I also wouldn't necessarily, like, start becoming a bummer. So just hold your horses. Let's see where it goes. Don't get, like, don't get too crazy about it one way or the other. As far as the Pokemon are concerning, it looks like there's ride Pokemon. Again, full spoiler here. The leaks that we got from that, like, I guess it was a PowerPoint or something like that, feature some sort of, like, ride Pokemon. They're silhouettes, so I don't know what they mean. But it's silhouette of Pokemon like, okay, one kind of looks like Braviary. I'll give it that. But the other two don't look like Pokemon at all. So I'm wondering, it could be a scenario in which they're kind of replicating, like, how the older games had, like, oh, here's just a silhouette of a bird come down and swoop to get you, which I feel like would be kind of weird if they did that for a full 3D game, especially one where you're going to be, like, on it for a significant amount of time. But we have a deer, some kind of weird guy with a thing coming off its head, and then a bird. I don't think that there's anything else. Either way, it seems like there's going to be a button for it, to, like, just like, oh, I'm going to ride on a freaking deer. Oh, that's leading me, though, into this next point. Ancient or, like, unevolved forms. So one thing that we're going to have to, like, kind of tread here is Pokemon that don't exist in the past. Porygon is a huge one. How do you explain Porygon at all in the Sinnoh region? They're not just going to omit it because, I mean, they would, maybe they would if Porygon Z didn't exist, but, like, how do you, like, don't completely erase Pokemon? At least, like, I guess they could just, whatever. Even if you ignore Porygon, which I don't know why you would, like, there's Pokemon like Electivire that, like, they require trade, which you can't do with this game, seemingly. Even then, like, in the lore of the game, you have the Electrolyzer, which is technology of some sort. So they're going to have to explain that in some way. And my thought here, I'm not the only one that's thought about this, but is, like, ancient or, like, old-looking forms. Maybe it's not Electivire. Maybe you can evolve Electabuzz into an entirely different Pokemon. And that's kind of where like, it kind of intersects with those ride Pokemon, where it's like, what if that deer is, like, a Stantler or some kind of other Pokemon entirely that evolved from a different Pokemon? It's an interesting theory, and I think we'll know about it sooner versus later, whether it's got any water. I think we'll see probably at least some parts of that slideshow leak, maybe for E3, honestly. And honestly, if they gave the starters brand new evolutions, whether they were just forms for Typhlosion, Decidueye, and Samurott, or if they were completely different Pokemon altogether, like Duat evolves into Ninjaot, I don't know, something else entirely, a different Samurott. But it would be cool to see them get new forms, kind of give you a reason to play and use, like, it'll give you a reason to use those specific starters rather than just, oh, why wouldn't you start with the main, like, Piplup and Turtwig and Chimchar anyways. Alright, so we already covered some stuff. Open world, I really think that this is the Diamond and Pearl remake. Obviously, we're getting Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but that's being made by an entirely different company, along with Masuda, and this is being made by Game Freak. So this is the main cheese. This is it. This is the main thing. This is the main course. And the fact that it's coming out, what did they say, January 28th? A lot of people are worried, but we'll see. Again, we won't know until we see more up-to-date footage and content from it, especially if they like show us like some live footage of it, some gameplay footage of it. So we'll see how it goes. It's really weird that it's so early. I honestly, when they said early 2022, I honestly was thinking like April, May? Like, that's still early. That's still early in the year. But I guess they want to get it out really early. I don't know. Another thing that I like the UI. I like the battle UI anyways, because that's the only other UI that we've officially seen. I like the battle UI. It kind of still goes off of that like Sumie, like ink stroke, paintbrush look, but like with color, and I love that. That's super cool. I like the colors that they used. Obviously that could change, but I like what they're doing with it. All right, 2 more things. More dynamic battles. It seems like the Pokemon actually run up to each other when they attack each other with physical attacks. Again, we'll see how things go as far as like the more up-to-date footage goes. Like, things could change, but it seems at the very least like the battles will be a bit more dynamic and a bit more interesting looking rather than just listen, I love Sword and Shield, but maybe the battles could be more interesting than just Pokemon bounces up and down and then that's the attack. I don't know. And finally, it seems, is let's see old looking familiar places. So places like Eterna City. Maybe we could see an old Eterna City. A lot of people are thinking that the like main starting town that like the professor's at in Legends Arceus is actually Jubilife City, because it's like it's a long stretch of buildings, and while that's not technically the most center town or city, it's a pretty big city, so it makes sense that maybe that would be like one of the first towns or cities set up in the region. All right, I've talked about this for too long. I don't think I have anything extra to say until we actually see more of the game. This is all like kind of out of date stuff, but not really. I am super excited about this game. I think it's gonna be, I hope that it's gonna be really good. It could bomb, it could be juddery and buggy and blah 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 blah, but I'm willing to hold my breath a little bit here just to see what they have to do with it, because it's super ambitious for them anyways. It's way more ambitious. It could break the cycle of relatively boring storylines, and maybe it's just something, maybe it's what Pokemon needs, something different, something to give us a breath of fresh air, similar honestly how to Breath of the Wild did for Zelda. We'll see. I hope that they can pull it off. Crossing my fingers. I will see you guys in another video. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think about what we currently know of Legends Arceus. Let me know what your hopes and your dreams and your fears and everything all together in one go right before we know anything about it. Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you guys in another video. So long.